Hello all, it's Shifty here, and today we're taking a look at the fighter and drone combo build event. The rules for all grids was that combined they had to be 6 kpc or less. They all had to fly in any environment, that's space, planets, moons, in atmosphere, not in atmosphere, anywhere in the game. They had to be survival ready, small grid only. DLC was allowed, but mods and scripts were not allowed. Specific limitations for the fighter were that it had to be 4 kpc or less, and have no more than 4 of any one weapon type. That is counting static and turret variants of weapons separately, so you could have 4 Gatling guns and 4 Gatling turrets if you wanted. For the drone limitations, all drones combined had to be 4 kpc or less, and you could have no more than 2 of any weapon type. Our first submission is the SA-72 Falcon Superiority Fighter Bomber, which was submitted by Task Force 577. It falls just under 5,000 PCU total. With its fighter and its 2 little warhead mines, they decided to go for guided missiles for their drones. I think that's kind of cool. I almost did this myself because I think they might be pretty strong. So that is what they went with. They have 4 Gatling guns, 2 autocannons, and 2 autocannon turrets. They also have 2 rocket launchers, non-reloadable, which is pretty cool. Those will be really satisfying if they do hit. They went for a mostly light armor build. Let's look at some of the front bits here that I think, no, it looks like it's all light armor. There might be some heavy armor here and there around critical components. I'm not entirely certain, but this is a fairly agile little ship. We got a little bit exposed on the hydrogen tank, and it only does have 1 hydrogen tank. So when that hydrogen tank goes, this ship is donezo. That is also true for a couple of the other ships. Everyone decided to go for hydrogen. It makes sense when you're trying to do low PCU and be able to fly everywhere. They also have 1 camera up front here, which is fairly well armored, so they probably can get away with that. I think I probably would have put a backup camera up top here, kind of further back, but hopefully it's armored enough that it survives. We'll find out when we fight these things. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. This is how you get in the cockpit, and they used a standard cockpit, the regular old cockpit. So that one doesn't have tons of hit points, but it is armored around it, so they should be all right. And also, their mobility is going to allow them to always be facing their front towards their enemy, at least towards the enemy main ship. If they have drones or whatnot, the other 2 used combat drones, not missiles. So they are going to be flying around and firing. If they get surrounded, it might be a bit of a problem, but with this front facing their main threat, they should be fairly safe in that back cockpit, and it's pretty armored, so we'll see how that goes, honestly. It's fairly agile. This is a more agile ship design. I went for a tankier one, but yeah, it's pretty cool. Taking this for a quick test flight, you can see it's got some pretty good kick to it. The 0 to 100 is pretty fast in the forwards direction. Strafing's not bad either. Left and right, up and down. I think I would like a little bit more up thrust, but this ship can fly pretty much in any orientation on a planet, so it's probably all right. And it turns rather rapidly. There are 4 gyroscopes on this, if I remember correctly. Either way, it's plenty to whip around real quick. And our camera is decent. Let's look at what the guns look like. Ooh, that's a little distracting, but I guess it's a nice central camera so that you can aim well. Our auto cannons, not bad. When you target lock something, the ring always shows up, so it doesn't really matter if you're like, the flashing might be a little distracting, but your ring's always going to show up even through the mist. So if you're target locked, you can put your crosshairs right in the middle of that little circle, and you should be able to hit just fine, even if it is a little bit foggy. Let's look in the inventory real quick. I do want to confirm that it only has that 1 tank. Yep, it has just 1 tank. It does have a medium cargo so that you can load up with a bunch of ammo, and the ammo is preloaded so that we can paste this in and fight each other, which is kind of nice. So that is maneuverability with a fully loaded setup. The drones themselves are mines that track you down and explode. They have a warhead on them, so potentially lethal if one of these gets close enough to you. So that's a little bit scary. They're going to have to be shot down before they get to you. And that might be a little bit tricky. I think in space, these are going to be very dangerous. Much less so on a planet because gravity seems to really screw with these things. But in space, I'm a little bit worried. I'm going to have to keep an eye out for these things. Luckily, everything does seem to have an antenna. So unless the antennas turn off, they should be easy-ish to dodge, hopefully. I'm a little bit scared, honestly. But we will see. Our next submission is the Khepri Mark 1 by Bluestone Bot and its companion drone, the Scarab. I had to look this up, but Khepri was a scarab-faced god, and they were like the sun god or something, so it kind of makes sense. Khepri, Scarab, very cool. That's what the ship looks like. They decided to go for, once again, a very similar setup. 4 Gatling guns on their main fighter. That's what this one is. 4 Gatling guns, 2 autocannons, and 2 rocket launchers. They opted for 2 Gatling gun turrets instead of the autocannon turrets that the previous one had, though. So very similar setup, also very similar maneuverability when I did the testing, but they have a very different drone. For their drone, the Scarab, they went with 4 Gatling guns. Now, you were technically only supposed to have 2 of one type of weapon, but I don't care. So this is a pretty cool one. They have only small tanks on this, but they do have, I want to say 6 of them. Yes, 6 small hydrogen tanks on this vehicle, so it should last a decent amount of time in atmosphere, and they also have these atmospheric thrusters to augment that. Very cool. Now, I do think this one is set up with a launch and return mechanism, so it can come attached to the ship. In paste-in form, this is what it looks like. It is just under 6,000 PCU, so they did a really good job with that, and it's using the industrial cockpit, which I also used because this one has, by a decent margin, more integrity. It has a much higher durability than the one you see over there that they used, the default one. This one actually has more integrity than the fighter cockpit, and it takes up a little bit less space, so it's the one both of us opted for. Pretty nice setup. This is a very small vehicle, so it's going to be kind of hard to hit this one. And when it's detached, it has these cool projector arms. They put a lot of PCU into decorative stuff for this one, and they have a lot less ship in front of their cockpit. So the cockpit is a little bit more exposed on this one. It's still behind a decent amount of blocks, but it's a little bit exposed. And they have the big hydrogen tank. They have one single large hydrogen tank, so dangerous. But this one is a little bit more covered than the previous one. And I haven't checked what types of blocks they're using. They are using a few heavy armor blocks. It looks like this gold is heavy armor. Oh, wait, is this all heavy armor? Not all heavy armor, but quite a bit of heavy armor actually on this vehicle. Looks like they have a layer of it here right in front of their cockpit as well. Probably wise. So this one's got a decent amount of durability. That explains why this one is actually slightly less maneuverable than that one. At least it felt like that in testing. Let's hop in it real quick and I'll show you what it actually feels like to fly. I almost just plowed into that. Honestly, the forwards thrust is very similar to the previous one. It feels like a fighter to fly. Not gonna lie. It's fairly agile. I think the down thrust is rather underwhelming, but do you really need that? I feel like you only really need thrust in like 3 directions really well to kite decently in this game. And you can see it whips around real fast. So it should be easy to keep your forward facing the enemy, your front facing the enemy, and make sure they're remaining in your crosshairs. This one also has 1 camera. Let me check to see if there's any backup cameras. No. As far as I can tell, there's only 1 camera. So when you lose that, you're back to flying in third person, which is not the worst thing, honestly. It's just fine with the target lock system. Can't complain about it. Something else I'd like to mention about this ship and the previous ship is that they have a very tight formation for their guns. This is kind of a trade-off, right? If you put all your guns in a very tight formation, you're either going to be hitting or not hitting, but when you are hitting, you're doing a lot of damage. So with a tight formation of guns, you're either going to not hit or you're going to break blocks, which is a good thing. I think that's probably the preferred way to position guns in fighters, is very close to each other, so that when you are hitting a block, you're more likely to destroy it or deform it and pass damage to the insides of a ship. I opted for spreading my guns out more so that it would be easier to hit, but when my guns hit, they are not going to be dealing as much damage. Except that I used bigger guns. I didn't use Gatling guns. I used the autocannons and the assault cannons on mine. There are no assault cannons on this one. I think I'm the only one that used assault cannons, and no one used railguns either in this competition, which I thought was kind of interesting. I was expecting somebody to try the railgun strategy, but railguns take forever to reload, and it's really hard to hit somebody who's actually trying in the game. I think the railguns would have taken out drones fairly easily, but hitting another player with a railgun is nearly impossible in fighters, unless somebody's doing something seriously incorrect. They don't have a medium cargo, but they have a bunch of small cargos. You can see they have tons of little small cargo containers all over the place, which is interesting. I don't know how that's going to work out. If one of them blows up and has ammo in it, will it chain react and blow up other ones? I don't know. But it fits into this very small ship shape, so that's probably the main deciding factor on why they did that. I could be wrong. Maybe they are trying to distribute their ammo so that they can always have ammo to their guns. One extra confirmation that they do not have more than one tank. And once again, this ship is loaded out with ammo in all their different containers. So that was an accurate loadout flight test. All right, taking the drone for a flight test. It's going to be a little bit scary because I can't change my view because I'm just auto-dampened to it. But it seems to move fairly well. Definitely spins around nicely, real quick. And I'm pretty sure this is going to fly just fine on a planet. Might be a little bit heavy. If this is heavy armor? Nope, it looks like the drone itself is actually entirely light armor. A little bit of heavy in the front. A wise choice. Ooh, actually, this whole gold section in the middle is heavy armor. I guess around the vitals it's heavier, but the wings out here, the side bits, this is all light armor. It looks like the drone is actually light armor for the most bit, and I just noticed this, but it's got some decoys on it, which is kind of cool. I don't think anyone else put decoys on their ship. I would have, but I totally forgot, and now I'm capped out on PCU. So I won't be adding decoys to my ship, but that was a wise decision. I had to come back and check the other ship of theirs. It does not have decoys on it. So I guess the Scarab is meant to draw fire away from their combat ship, their fighter. The way we are going to be judging winners in the little PvP event is survival of the fighter. So the survival of the drones does not matter at all. So that is an intelligent decision that I don't think anyone else made. The last set of submissions were designed by me. We have my fighter, which is the bolter, and my drone, which I called the Brawler. I decided to go for a much larger setup than the other ships. As you can see, it's about twice the size of the other vehicles. At least it feels that way. And I don't know, I wanted to go for big and a little bit tankier. It is definitely slower, but I have two large hydrogen tanks. I got one right up in the front there, and then I got one in the back behind all of the thrusters. And I went for the large thrusters so that I could kind of save on PCU and still be able to haul around my increased weight with pretty good maneuverability. I also decided to go for the bigger guns on my ship. So praying for that one-shot mechanic with my 4 assault cannons. It's not really a tight formation, but it's like a small spread. So if I'm close to hitting, hopefully one of those hits or 2 of those hits, and I can hit their hydrogen tank or their cockpit or something, and hopefully I can knock them out with a good hit. And then I have a bunch of the autocannons. I have 4 of the autocannons. They are very spread out, so pretty much only 1 or 2 of these is ever going to be able to hit these smaller ships at a time if they are facing me, which I assume they will be, because that's where all their guns are. So a little tricky. I went for the bigger spray and pray method, and then the kind of super cannon one-shot. Very similar to how using railguns feels using these ones, but they're also gonna just about one-shot a hydrogen tank if they hit it, which the railguns will also do. but these reload much faster. So if I miss, it's not as big of a deal using the assault cannons versus the railguns. So that's what I decided to go for. We'll see. I have 3 cameras on mine, a lower camera, upper camera, and then a much further backup camera. So hopefully that means I'll never run out of cameras. I have 4 Gatling guns, 4 Gatling turrets, I should say, positioned around my ship. And I did decide to go for adding at least a little bit of ion thrusters in every direction, because another part of our judging is that for a ship to be considered out of commission or crashed or taken out, one of the conditions is that it cannot fly. It cannot maneuver anymore. And in space, even if my hydrogen tanks get taken out, technically I can still maneuver with the ion thrusters. So I don't know, they're not going to be super helpful. It's almost just a little bit of a gimmick, trying to play the rules a little bit. But hey, we all knew the rules beforehand, so it's fair game as far as I'm concerned. My companion ship is also absolutely massive compared to the other people's ships. Honestly, my drone is larger than their other vehicles, their main vehicles, their fighters. I'm like at a loss for words here. Jeez. So my drone is quite large, and I did go for just lots of guns on it. We've got 2 Gatling guns, 2 autocannons, and 2 assault cannons. And I decided to go for the rocket launchers. For some reason, the rocket launchers have lower PCU than the other turrets, like much lower. These are 100, and these are like, I don't know, 200 something for any of the other turrets, which is really weird because the straight rocket launcher, the reloadable straight one, is like 400 or 500 or something. And these are reloadable, and they shoot rockets, and they track. I don't quite get it, but I think these will be devastating if they can actually get up and hit something. Probably won't hit that often, but it'll be pretty cool. And I have my Brawler set to engage at a very close range, so that hopefully it will draw the fire of any of their turrets and draw the fire of whatever else they have. I didn't know while I was building it, but it might be a good decoy to draw the mines to it, though it's not going to be able to dodge those. So one of those is probably going to take out my Brawler in every fight. It'll be interesting to find out. Another thing worth mentioning is that mine flies very comfortably on a planet. I decided to flip my 4th forwards facing thruster. I used to have 4. I actually really like the way that looks more, so I have a version of that. I think this looks really nice. And if I was using this in space, I think this is the version I'd like to use. But because we're going to be using these on planets too, I decided to just flip that bottom thruster down just to give myself a little bit better control while I'm on a planet. I think it looks silly, but it does function better. And function is what we're going for on this one. Jumping in my fighter is actually pretty difficult. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this while push talking, but basically you have to look at this like 1 pixel box right there and then hop in. It's a bit of a pain. But my acceleration is not bad, honestly. I would say it's about as good as the other vehicles. I'm about twice the size as the other vehicles. I just used larger blocks, so I was able to kind of cram more in with the same PCU. I also just didn't give any brains to my vehicles. But it feels pretty good to fly, and I do have 1, 2, 3 cameras all facing forwards. I'll probably use my number 4 camera. That is my top front camera. See, I have a very clear view with my autocannons firing, and when I fire my assault cannons, I basically lose my view for a couple seconds. I really wish the smoke for these got left behind, but the smoke of the autocannons is like clings to the front of the autocannons. It's really silly. It drives me nuts. I don't know why it does that, but I guess it looks better that way. I don't know. Anyway, it obscures my view quite a bit, but again, if you have auto target, auto lock on, it's not bad. And hopefully I'm able to just one-shot somebody if I hit with that. That's my goal, at least. I know one-shot mechanics aren't really fun for PvP, but you know, you gotta try to win, right? I don't know. We'll see if it works. I mean, missiles with warheads on them are also kind of a one-shot mechanic if you let them touch you, so... Yeah, it'll be kind of a fun competition. Everyone went kind of their own way with their ship, completely different strategies, and I'm hoping that I'm able to tank more damage than everyone else, because I'm not a particularly good pilot. I'm not really good at PvP. It's not something I basically ever do. So hopefully being a little bit tankier will help me stay alive. I'm not sure. And also hopefully I made my drone a very large drone with decent capabilities. So I'm hoping that the fact that my drone can kind of do more, or is just like bigger and dishes out a heck of a lot more damage than their drones, I'm hoping that that can make up for me being a bad pilot. I don't know. I think my drone's just going to eat a mine and die, or it's going to lose to a more agile, more intelligent small drone. We'll see. I'm honestly excited for this little competition. So drop a comment and let me know who you think's going to win. And these two players, let me know in Discord when you have free time, and we'll just get together. We'll probably do it on the server or something. I'll spawn these in and we can battle each other. There was going to be a tournament, but because there's only 3 submissions, we'll just do some sort of round robin where everyone faces the other person in 3 fights. We'll do like a best of 3, and we'll do it in 3 different settings. So everyone will face everyone else, and you'll face them in space, probably around an asteroid or something, so we have some interesting terrain. And then we'll do it on a planet, and we'll do it on a moon. So those are going to be our 3 terrains that we're fighting in. And the person with the most wins overall will be the winner. I think I'll put all the combat in another video. So if you're interested in that, definitely subscribe so you get notified when that video comes out. If you want to get involved in future events or do voting for the different competitions that we have, head over to the Discord. All of the events are pinned in the Event Talk channel. So you'll be able to tell what events are currently running, what ones have run in the past, and what's coming up in the future. For now, though, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.